All right. And a couple things as we get started. We're going to go for quite a while today and not worry about a break for two reasons. One, we started late. You already know that. And two, we're going to be done around 10:45. I contacted Mr. Corrigan and I asked him if it was possible for me to come in to Rankin because I've got a lot of stuff I'd like to print off and I don't have a printer here. And I've gotten permission to go into Rankin from 11 o'clock until 1 o'clock today to print some stuff out. So, like I said, we're going to have 2 or 3 sessions, and then we're going to be finished for today. So I just want to get going right away. Can you see where it says the updated schedule on your screen right now? Can you both see this?
Yes.
All right. It's been emailed to you as well. All right. Between today and tomorrow, we're going to finish up working with PHP MyAdmin, working with MySQL, and we're going to go back and we're going to bring this full circle to where on Wednesday we are going to be bringing in the C# component and working with SQL Server. I just want you to know that. But the idea was by giving you a few days last week and a couple days this week, ideally you've got at least an intro into working with databases. All right. So you can see that. So again, I'm going to go over the rest of lab number 1, and there were some mistakes in one of the problems that I gave you. I'm going to go over lab number 2 tomorrow. All right. Or we're going to start going over it today, and what we don't finish today, we'll finish tomorrow. Plus, I emailed you a handout on MySQL, and we'll talk about that tomorrow because it's got a few built-in MySQL functions that I have not yet talked to you about. Then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're going to start part 1 of this project, work on it 2 days next week, and then go into part 2, and then go into part 3. All right. Now, if you notice, if you can look down here, way towards the bottom, it says link/project. About 2 weeks from today, I'm going to lecture on chapter 23, which is LINQ, which stands for Line Integrated Query. Don't worry about it for right now. But we're going to talk a little bit about LINQ, and then we'll go back to the project. As promised, especially for you, Angie, because you don't have experience in it, 2 weeks from Friday on the 1st, I'm going to have you download MobiRise. I'm going to give you a demo, and I'm going to make sure that you all have access to your accounts, and I'll show you how you can set things up. So what that means is we have this week, next week, and the following week. The last week that we have class, what I plan on doing is just starting you and saying, hey, are there any questions on anything? And if there aren't, I'm letting you go because it's time for you to work on your projects. And your projects are basically due by Wednesday at the end of class. I mean, that electronic portfolio, that's what I say. So any project work is due. These DB labs, that's the worksheets. The projects, you can see when they're due, and the portfolio when it's due. Keegan, you know this already, but you probably don't, Angie. The last day of the semester is the 6th. I literally have to have grades in by 12 noon on the 7th. All right. I mean, and there's no exceptions. So I've got to make sure that I've got everything in. So if for some reason you're late in turning something in, you can have, if you need it, until like 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. But that's the last time that I can accept anything because it takes a while to grade everything. Plus, I've got final projects on Wednesday for the afternoon class, and that's going to take a while to go back in and grade all those. Either one of you have any questions on any of that?
No.
No.
All right. So I'm going to stop the share and go and just show you this. Let's. This is the other thing that I sent you. Now, it's pretty long. It's 25 pages. I don't expect you to read it, memorize it, or anything. But what I'm going to do tomorrow is spend a little bit of time going over this because there are some major commands that you can use in a relational database management system that we don't talk about in these 2 worksheets. All right. So I want to go over some of them with you. So if you do get a chance, page through it. I know it's electronic. Just go through it like this. Take a quick look. All right. And like I said, I don't think that you don't have to spend much time on it, etc. And that's just fine. All right. Now I want to mention next. This is, whoop, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Let's see. Here it is. All right. This was the first worksheet that we had, the one that we went over everything last week except the last two problems. Can you see it on your screen right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What I want you to understand on this worksheet is basically what we're doing. I'm going to move all the way back up to here and make this small. All right. And I realize it's kind of hard to read, but the point is what you were asked to do on here was to grab a bunch of the ID fields. In other words, the customer ID, the order ID, the employee ID, etc. You're both smart enough to realize, for example, customer ID is in here and it's in here. Employee ID is in here or it's in here. So when you were asked two different ways of doing this, you could grab the customer ID field from here, or you could grab it from here. You could grab the employee ID field from here or from here, etc. So that's really all that I was looking for. But the key takeaway from this, the thing that I wanted you to understand, and I'm going to go over both of these with you because the second one unfortunately had some mistakes on it, but I'll show you what the right one is in just a minute. So this was the first one. And again, we're grabbing customer ID, employee ID, order ID. We don't need that. Whoops. Order ID, product ID, category ID, and vendor ID. So in other words, we're grabbing 6 of those ID fields. All right, 6 out of the 8 tables that we have. From how many tables? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tables. So we're grabbing the customer ID from the customers table. We're also grabbing it from the orders table. So we're able to link those 2 tables. We're grabbing the employee ID from both the orders table and from the employees table. All right, we're grabbing, or the employee ID. We're grabbing the order ID from the orders table and the order detail table. We're grabbing the product ID from the order detail table and the product table. Finally, we're grabbing again the product ID from the product table and the product vendor table. So the bottom line is we're able to go in and combine information from any to all of these tables by using either direct relationships or indirect relationships. So if I grab this entire thing here, this is the one that you already had, and this works. And I'm going to jump back. And as soon as I find it, all right, I know what it is, so I got to jump back to here. And then I got to jump back to here. Now it'll show it to me. There it is. All right. So when I grab, you should be seeing the PHP My Admin window right now. So when I grab all this stuff, and it's kind of thrown all over the place, so let's pretty it up just a little bit. So the idea, again, is what we want to do is we want to grab the customer ID, the employee ID, the order ID, the product ID, the category ID, and the vendor ID. And again, I'm sure you both realize what I'm saying, all right? In order to do that, since what we're doing is we're doing an extremely hard join query in that we're joining together 6 tables. So since we have 6 tables, what we have to make sure that we do with 6 tables is we want 5 of these things where we are literally grabbing and combining the information together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's always one less of these than there are the number of tables you're joining. If it's just all in one table, there'll be 0 of them. If we are joining together 2 tables, there'll be 1 of these joins, etc. So when I grab all of this stuff, all right, and I run the query, it doesn't look like much, but the idea is what we're seeing right here is basically all the setups in here. So all the stuff for customer ID, we can tell by looking at this that it appears that at least a lot of the time, customer 1018 works with employee 707, but not all the time. All right. We can see what their order ID is. We can see the products that were ordered in there. We can see the categories those products came from, and we can see the vendors. So what I did, just because I wanted it all to fit on a screen, was I grabbed IDs. But we could have grabbed the customer name, the employee that they were working with. We could have had the order ID. We could have had the product name and the category name and the vendor name. Does that make sense to both of you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the other problem that was in here, just so you know, yeah, I know I'm stopping the share and I'm going to start it again. The other problem that was in here had errors in it. I didn't realize that. I would never give you junk with errors in it, you know, purposely. I do enough of it without trying to, but I would never do it purposely. But if you look on here, this was the second problem. There were things in here that asked you, they asked you to some of this stuff said number, like product number, etc. Please change yours so that it looks like this. So I'm going to leave this up there for just a couple minutes. And please grab everything that's in here. When you've got the information done, copy it into your PHP My Admin screen, run the query, and make sure that the query works. All right, I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. And while you're doing that, I'll just mention to you, you have 6 more assignments for the rest of the semester. One of them is the one you see on screen right now. All right. And what I'd like you to do is ideally by the end of the period today, have this all cleaned up and send me your copy of this. All right. In just a couple minutes, we're going to start on worksheet 2. And by tomorrow, by the end of the period, or right around there, I'd like you to send me in worksheet 2. All right. Those are each worth 50 points. Then we're going to start on a 3-part project where we're going to build our own relational database management system. In other words, we're going to be able to look at the database that we're working with here and we're going to be able to add records, remove records, and modify records. All right. Each part of the 3 parts project will be worth 50 points. And then finally, your electronic portfolio at the end of the semester is worth 150 points. So in other words, there's 400 points remaining in the rest of the semester. Did you both have a chance to put this in?
Yeah.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay. Angie?
Yes.
Did it work for you too?
Yes.
Okay, then let's look at the last one. The last example here, and I think I mentioned this to you yesterday, but I don't, or last week, I guess, but I don't remember if I did or not. This is a union query. So what we're doing is we're making a new table. We're saying grab everything from the customer's table, customer first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, etc., and combine it with everything from the employee table. But hopefully what you notice in there, what we do not combine when we're doing this is we do not put in the ID numbers. And the reason for that is these ID numbers, we have no guarantee that maybe, maybe this starts at customer 1. Maybe this starts at employee 1. All right, so it's possible we could have 2 ID numbers that were the same. And if we tried to do that, the program would break. But sometimes what happens is, and this is what I want to mention to you, is you've got a table that is so filled with information. All right, this table is so that, and there's so many records that they're not all in one file. All right, so maybe literally we have 1 million customers. Well, you wouldn't put all that stuff in one file. That would be kind of ridiculous. So maybe you've got it in 50 files, and each one has about 20,000 records in it. Then you could do something like this. And if we did know that all of the IDs, if were unique, we could still do this. Then we could add the ID field. All right. But what we're doing is we're combining. We have 32 customers and we have 8 employees. When we get done, we're going to have the equivalent of a new table, and that new table is going to have 40 records in it, 32 from here and 8 from here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Did you guys run this query?
Yes.
All right. And it worked okay for both of you?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Then that's enough said about this one. So like I said, if you can, by the end of the period, if at all possible, please attempt to have, to turn in your copy of this. So I'm going to go over to worksheet number 2. This is the one I emailed you, and I think it was like Friday morning I did it. I don't remember. Do you both have that worksheet where you can bring it up on the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think what I'm going to do, since I have I've gone through all these, they should all work. All right, we're just going to start on these now. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep my Word document up. And I'm going to have you type in the stuff and then go and put it into PHP My Admin. And if you have any problems, then you'll let me know. All right. So the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to insert 3 records: Mr. Gudmested, Mr. Corrigan, and Mr. Knott. So here is the code. Before you even put it in, let's just stop for a second and take a look at it, because this is it right here. I'll give you plenty of time. But it's insert keyword into keyword customers, the name of the table. Then what I need is, remember, we're not putting in the IDs because they're already auto-incremented. So we put in the first name, Evan, last name, Gudmested, street address, 4431 Finney Avenue, city, St. Louis, state, MO, zip code 63313, area code 314, and since we set that up as an int field, not in quotes, and phone number 3691. All right. What I'm asking you is looking at this syntactically and what's going on, does it make sense to you?
Yeah.
All right, then please put in this query, copy it to your clipboard or whatever, and put it into PHP My Admin, run it, and let me know. If it worked, you'll know because you'll just get like record added, record added, record added, or something like that. Make sure to put a comma after the first record, after the second record. You do not need in PHP My Admin to put a semicolon at the end of every line, but you can do it. It doesn't hurt anything.
I put all those in earlier and they all worked.
Okay, so
Same here.
Angie, you too?
Yes.
Okay, no problems?
Not on that.
Okay, so what you know then is to check that. You can do a select star from customers, go to the end of the table, and you should see those 3 records inserted at the end. Okay, all right, then let's move on. Okay, this says here, first show the query to list each customer's current city, state, and zip code, but only for those customers in Austin, Texas, Palm Springs, California, San Diego, California, or Seattle, Washington. So that's this. But again, notice the way that this is done. We want the city, the state, the zip code from customers. We're the city in. This is, again, a shortcut because I didn't really want to type in where customer city equal Austin or customer city equal Palm Springs or customer city equal San Diego or customer city equals Seattle. All right, so this is a shortcut. So please put in that one. Let me know after you've got that done, if you put it in, if it works, etc. All right, and then we'll go on from there.
Okay, I did that one, but I did it the longer way. Should I change it?
No, that's fine. Again, Angie, if you've heard me say this, and I know Keegan has more than once. When you're in your first year, when you're learning to do this stuff, you should be programming for understandability. All right. Once you're a professional programmer, some of the stuff, because I've done this, I've gone back and looked back at stuff I did when I started. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was really stupid. I could have taken these 10 lines and done them in 2. But you know what? When I did them in 10, they made total sense to me. That's what you should be shooting for right now, is for stuff to make sense for you a lot more than writing it in as few lines as possible. So Keegan, did you do this one or are you doing it now?
I'm doing it right now. I was
All
trying
right, then I'm going to leave it up there. And everything that's in here should be case insensitive. So you should be able to put that in upper, lower, or mixed case. It should not matter one way or the other. this would be an example too, where let's say that I put some stuff in here, like let's say I put in Milwaukee, Chicago, Detroit, Cincinnati. It would come back and say no records found. That doesn't mean it's a bad query. That means that there are no cities in there, no records in there with those 4 cities. All right.
Okay, I'm good.
All right. So then we're supposed to go, and these are actual area codes. I looked them up. Said Austin's this way. Said Palm Springs this way. San Diego's here. And Seattle's here. Now, I'm going to leave this up there, but before you start typing, I would do this one. And after you do, I would copy it and just change the zip code number, etc. So just change this information. But then you've got all this copied for all of them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead and work on that one. Let me know when you're done because there's, oh, that's it. I think it was just, yeah, just those 4. So let me know when you're finished with those, please. I think I'm right too with the number that are affected. 1 row, 2 rows, and 2 rows.
I was able to do that one.
Okay. And that's good, you know, and then like I said, I didn't know how much time you'd have to work on this, etc. Desire. I'm hoping that when we go over this and we are working on this project that you're really like, oh, now I see what you're saying. Now I can see why you'd maybe want to do this. Because what we're going to build, I mean, this is my opinion for whatever it's worth. It's kind of cool because we're going to have the ability to bring up a table, and any one of these tables, we're going to have the ability to see every record that's in it and to change any record that's in it. And immediately that change will be updated. So. Now,
I'm good.
okay, and I haven't gotten it yet, but as I get my 10-minute warning, what I'm going to basically do is go for 5 more minutes after that. Then I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to get you a new URL, and we'll start up again in about 5 minutes. All right, but that hasn't come up yet. So, all right, so number 3. Now this is kind of hard, but what this is doing right here, don't worry about typing in it. I'll give you time. All right, when you do a left join, what you're saying is, I want every record from every table that's mentioned first, customers, but for the other table, only give me ones where these 2 match. What does that mean? Well, you added those 3 records, right? You might have added yourself the other day. So let's say you've got yourself in there, Mr. Gudmested, Mr. Corrigan, and Mr. Knott. You and Mr. Gudmested and Mr. Corrigan and Mr. Knott, none of you have orders. So you should be the ones who do not have any orders. So I'll let you go and type in this pretty short query, but that's it right there, and it should work. If it doesn't, as always, just let me know. We'll come back, we'll go back and we'll talk about it. All right, so my 10-minute warning just came up. So I will go, like I said, for about 5 or so more minutes. Again, my hope is after you get that done, you'll have 3 or 4 records that you get back. You, Mr. Gudmisted, Mr. Corrigan, and Mr. Knott. And I think that's all that should be in there. You had time to put this in?
I've entered it, but I have all kinds of errors.
Yeah, same here.
Okay. All right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to start a new share on here, put it in, and see if it runs on mine, because it should. I did test all these before, so notice who I get. I made this dummy record with a first name of first and a last name of last, but point is you see this. All right, so let's go back and at least look at the query. All right, because there's so many places you can make a mistake in here. This thing that's right here, hopefully you already figured it out. Concat is a way that you can glue together 2 fields. So what I'm saying is combine together into one field, the last name, a blank space, I'm sorry, the first name, a blank space, and the last name, and call it customer name. Does that make sense to both of you?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. This basically says, I only want you to include those records where the order date is null. So in other words, where you have not ordered anything. Who hasn't ordered anything? You already know who that is. That's you, Mr. Gudmisted, Mr. Corrigan, and Mr. Knott. All right. So do the best you can. I'll leave this up here for just a second. Make it a little bit bigger. All right. And try to make sure you've keyed it in okay. Even if you get an error, that's okay. And again, I've taken all of the keywords and capitalized them, but you don't have to do that, although you can do that if you want to. Either way is fine. Over. There we go. Easier to read.
All right, I got mine to work.
Okay. And like I said, Angie, even if yours doesn't work, that's okay. And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, it's fine. I just want to make sure you've seen this, okay? All right, so I want to show you one more thing, and then we're going to stop this first session, and that is this, because I didn't mention distinct. So I'm going to say select customer state from customers. Okay, you should already be able to figure out what this is going to give me if I run it. I've got 32 customers, so what am I getting here? 32 states. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I wanted to make it look a little nicer, I could say select customer state from customers, and I could say order by customer state. I could do that. All right. And it looks a little better now because there's my Californias, there's my Missouris, there's my Oregons, etc. So you see that. That's not bad. Problem is, do I really need all that repetition? No. So what I can do is I can say select, it's a keyword, distinct customer state from customers. Now notice, since I use distinct, it says don't show me duplicates. And that's a lot nicer. Again, I could go back if I wanted to, and I could order it by customer state. So it would be in alphabetic order. The point is, what you're noticing is now I'm only getting 5 records back. All right, so the distinct command, which we had not talked about before, is nice. So that, let me just finish that up. Distinct customer state from customers order by customer state. Okay, and now of course it will be in alphabetic order. All right, so hopefully at least that made some sense. All right, let's do this then. It's just about time. So let's stop. It's 9:42. I'm going to start up again literally in about 5 minutes. All right, so please drop off, come back in 5 minutes, and you'll have a new URL. Thanks.